Well, welcome back to Thoughts While Thinking. And the opinions expressed here are mine and mine alone, and we want to keep it that way. And we're going to be doing a rearranging some prejudices today, but I think we're going to do some solid thinking because we're going to walk through some stuff that has been misleading by the mass media and the super left for at least 60 years or better. And I think it's time somebody called the attention to that because what they're saying is just not true most of the time. So I'm going to talk about that on the facts as I know them. And, to be able to think freely and think clearly, you got to be able to risk not offending somebody. Well, maybe we won't offend somebody today, but I hope not. But anyway, they say people, constitutions are not people. Well, without people, there's not any corporation. So think about that for a minute and look at that prejudice. Well, people are corporations, and corporations are legal entities, and we'll get into that. And then they say all this corporate greed. Well, the question is, what is corporate greed? I mean, that phrase sounds awful and terrible and very damaging. But think about it. What is corporate greed? Uh, I don't understand what that is. With news media, they just push that old corporate greed, and the big tech do too. But the profits and everything of a corporation, they go to pay the dividends, and there's a lot of people living on their retirement depending on those dividends. So let's look at that. So what is that greed? Well, yeah, it's just that anti-corporation movement. It's anti-free enterprise. They've been working to say that capitalism don't work for a long time. But capitalism we have has produced the highest standard of living the world has ever known. And what we consider poverty here in other countries is considered a wealth and high living, and they envy that, and that's the reason they're trying to get in here so much is because that free enterprise and capitalism is working. And so what we look at a corporation? A corporation is just a group of people. A group of people is organized for a certain purpose. And they organize under the law, and it is an entity. And it has the same rights and powers as what an individual does. Because legally it is a people. It is an individual. It is a legal person. And a corporation, they are big and small, and they're not all just like Pepsi Cola and Coca Cola and all of those big guys like that. Most of them are little small ones, and most of them are working off of 3 or 4 stockholders that are depending on those profits to make their dividends so they can provide schools, sponsor little league sports, and things like that. So what is that corporate greed? I just have a trouble wrapping my head around that deal because it's just a shareholder business, and it gets taxed so many times that will just really wraps your head up against the wall. And a corporation has the same responsibilities as an individual. It's got to be a good citizen. And if a corporation not a good citizen, they don't make any money, and therefore they're not going to stay in business because the stockholders are not going to like that. And a lot of those are free, just individually owned businesses, and some of them are a group of stockholders. And but the profit distribution is a big chunk of it goes out in taxes, and that little purple deal over there, that's about the amount that goes into the dividends. The rest of it is to improve the company, to research and development, and to take care of customers, and that's our customer support. And so the rest, and that little bit that's paid goes to the dividend stockholders. And that surplus is the first and most important consideration of the dividends calculation policy of a company. And the shareholders expect that. And they have to get it. And they get it out of what all the news media are saying, corporate greed. And the taxes, they're taxed twice. They're taxed before they pay a dividend, 21% or so. And then the dividend is taxed as earned income. And so they're taxed twice at least, and maybe more than that. That little piece of the pie there is all they get out of that stuff. The rest of it goes to the government and taxes and building the business back. And the 21% is the low maximum tax rate right now. But they're talking about raising that up. At one time, it got up to around 80%. And businesses went down in a hill real bad. And right now, with all of the talk and inflation and stuff that's going on, our profits and security is going down the hill too. But most of these businesses are small business, and most of these corporations are small business corporations, and they're mom and pop operations. And this survey here was taken a few years ago, and so I suspect that Texas took California's place as being the number one contributor to the gross national product. But anyway, it is an important factor. And the corporation and small businesses, they just take care of things. They take care of their little banks. They take care of their little computer companies. They take care of their little mom and pop stores. And that's what a small business is. And the social media, they get down on it. All that corporate greed. Well, take that corporate greed away, and you don't have any sponsorships to your little league. That's how important that is. And they protest that corporate greed, and the corporations, they sitting there and they said, oh yeah, well we want to protest this corporate greed, and they are the one the corporate that they're taking a shot at. So that kind of warps your mind. But here's what most of your corporations are: is this little restaurant right here, and these little small companies. That's how they grow up to be big giant companies. So when you're out shopping, you shop for support those local businesses, because, like I said, they're the one that sponsors pays your local taxes to pave your streets and support Little League and all of that business. So small business accounts for 64% of the new private sector jobs and 42% of all of them. So look how important that small business is. And, the small business demographic is at 30% are self-employed. 56% work for the small corporations. 32% are owned by women. And 124,551 black-owned businesses in the United States. So you got a smattering of everybody owning these little corporations, and so we want to build on that and build more of them. And when you're thinking about that, you got to remember the only rights you have are the ones you're willing to fight for. And let's go fight for some of these rights and get them back. And we got to wake up, America. And that's adios, amigos, and we'll see you on the flip side.